Hi there, my name's Liam Cotter and this is my interview stream. So the first question is, describe a failed project I've been involved with at work and why I was unsuccessful. So one of my jobs while I'm completing my degree at Ryerson is I work at the North Bay Golf and Country Club in the summertime as a bartender and server. So there's many tournaments throughout the summertime, but one of the main ones is early on is the Mixed Invitational. So it's a 3-day long weekend golf tournament, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, open to men and women. So in terms of a tournament like this, you know, there's a lot of setup and preparation in terms of tables, seating, linen, and then we also have food and beverages for the entire weekend. So a lot of preparation goes into this. And you know, sure enough, and there was no way of knowing it, you know, this early in advance because you prepare very early. So we were expecting about 150 participants, and the weather ended up being terrible. It ended up raining all weekend long. And so even though people prepaid for the actual golf tournament, it ended up being the food and beverage sales that were hurt the most. So, you know, people weren't drinking alcohol. You know, they were drinking coffee and tea because they wanted to be warm. There was an optional dinner one night, and guests were just going to the hotel room because they're all wet and dry and they didn't want to stay. So even though it was the you know, the golf like the membership and the fees were fine, the food and beverage sales were terrible for the weekend. And it was one of those things where, you know, that was the end result and there was nothing we could do, you know, because it was the weather. And in the hospitality and tourism industry, especially the golf course industry, it's heavily weather dependent. So that project tournament ended up being very unsuccessful, and sure enough, and the golf course, especially the bar and the restaurant, lost a lot of money, and there was nothing we could do about it. Which you know, I guess in future it's something you have to try to like plan for and learn from. But in that situation, it really was out of our hands. So the next question is, how can I help increase my company morale and productivity? So I'm a very positive and outgoing individual, and one of the jobs I worked at was Starbucks as a barista. So part of my task was, you know, engaging in the customers and then taking their drinks order and make sure it was made to perfection. So at this point in time, though, I had very little experience in the food and beverage or the service industry. And you know what? It was one of those things where I just mentally had I was willing to take on any task. And I just had the right attitude and mindset and, you know, a determination. So through positivity, that's how I tried to complete my job. And even though I might not have been the best, I always had the right mindset and the right attitude. And I always had a smile on my face and greeted people so that they thought I was passionate and enthusiastic. So, you know, ultimately, at the end of my first month on the job, I actually received Employee of the Month for my enthusiasm and high energy. So that's something I learned and I take with me to every job and something that I pride myself on. So the next question is, tell me about a situation you worked in where you experienced conflict and how it resolved. So going back to the golf course and being a bartender, there's a lot of events such as weddings, stag and does, birthday parties that take place. You know, and at some of these events, people drink alcohols and sometimes they drink too much alcohol. And in one situation, there was one gentleman who consumed way too much and was slurring his words, could not stand, and was actually using extreme vulgar language. So after I got a few complaints and I could tell that he really shouldn't be drinking anymore, I made the decision to cut him off. When I did this, he got very upset and started screaming and really causing quite a scene. So I tried to calm him down and explain that it was for his own safety and for everyone else, and that it was out of my hands and that I couldn't undo my decision. So at that point, he couldn't drink anymore. So, you know, it only escalated from there. I tried to remain calm and I tried to explain it, and people were helping me, but there was no rationale. He wasn't understanding where I was coming from, and he was not happy at all. So once I literally tried to do everything possible to resolve the situation myself, I then went and got my manager, who came and explained the situation. And you know, she after some time, once the customer realized that he wasn't getting served, he ultimately left. So, you know, I tried to do everything in my power, but once it wasn't getting any better, I had to go to my manager, and she took care of it from there. The next one is, tell me how you have handled a dissatisfied customer in the past. So working at the golf course, we have we have a lot of dinner reservations on some nights. And one night we got hit by a huge rush of about we served about 70 members in an hour and a half. And we weren't really ready for this rush, and we were understaffed on the front of the house in terms of servers and in the back of the house and for chefs. So one table, and we warned them before we took it that it might be some time, but we weren't 100% how long. So ultimately, ended up waiting over an hour for their food. And as the evening went on before they got their food, they were very upset, and they expressed their feelings to us. And to be honest, they weren't very nice or kind. So, I explained to them, I'm really sorry, I'm truly sorry. We told them it would be backed up. There was orders ahead of them that needed to be go through. I explained that we were understaffed. Ultimately, I asked my manager, and I gave the table a round of drinks on the house. After that, though, they probably ended up still waiting another 20 minutes, so 2 members ended up leaving, and the rest of them stayed. They had their meal, but, they were still quite upset about the situation, and they let myself and my manager know. They were even yelling at her, and they actually weren't nice to myself or my manager, so she actually ended up reporting them to the board of directors. Ultimately, it took a couple days for the whole situation to get back to normal, but ultimately the members still can't continue to come back, and it was just one of those unfortunate situations that took place. So lastly is about think about a time where you were under extreme pressure to complete a task or activity for a critical deadline. So one of my other jobs is being a ski instructor at Mansfield Ski Club. So this is a ski club about an hour outside of Toronto, and I did this on Saturdays and Sundays for the whole winter weekend. So we had about 3 classes through the day, 2 hours each, and there would be about 20 students in each class. So I taught a total of 60 students each day on Saturday and Sunday, so it was different. So sure enough, towards the end of the season, our boss comes in and says, hey guys, I completely forgot to tell you, but the report cards are due this week. And this was my first season, so I didn't know how it worked there. So sure enough, I had to fill out 120 report cards for both Saturday and Sunday, and I only had 48 hours to do them. And I needed to get those to the students because this was actually going to be, they need the report cards to be done. And I wouldn't have another chance to give them to them. And so sure enough, I ended up staying overnight on the Saturday, which I usually go home and commute. And I literally just sat down all night, and I sat for 12 hours and literally pumped out 120 report cards. I had to write about the skill, each individual skills, how they can improve, positive aspects of the entire, teaching their kid. So I literally sat down for 12 hours and wrote all of them. Some of the writing quality might not have been the best. Maybe some of them were the most detailed, but at the end of the day, I got them done and I met my deadline, and the students and the parents were very happy. So, sometimes there's tight deadlines, but you just got to buckle down and get it done. And that's exactly what happened in that situation. So this concludes my interview stream, and I hope I answered the questions to your standard. And thank you very much, and have yourself a great day.